Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Zanetta Moore, and she's had two near-death experiences, and she has never told them publicly before. So thank you, Zanette, for trusting NDE TV with your story. So feel free to start wherever you like and take as long as you like.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for having me. I would like to start prior to the first incident. Um, my just a little history. My father was in the military. He was a Marine. Him and my mom, they got a divorce in 1974. My first near-death experience happened in 1976, January 9th. But prior to this, I would like just a little background about myself. My mother's side of the family is Pentecostal, Church of God in Christ, firm believer in, the manifestations of the Spirit and, on and on and so forth. So the reason why I'm giving you this history is because it's going to help us along in the story a little bit. The Sunday prior to January 9th, when I got burned, because I was burned in a house fire and pronounced dead, basically. But the Sunday before, I was 3 years old. This happened January, so I was going to turn 4 years old in March, the 20th of that year. And my grandparents, my grandmother in particular, my mother, had me at church. And the spirit was real high in the church, and people were, praising God and speaking in tongue, and the Holy Spirit, the presence of the Lord was there. And you know how kids, I don't know if this has ever happened to anyone, but when the Spirit is going forth, kids have a tendency to mock, the saints that are going forth and whatnot. So I began to get up, and keep in mind I'm only 3 years old at this time, and I start just praising God, to the point where my grandmother was trying to pull me down, and the preacher was like, no, the anointing is on her, allow her to speak. So he called me up to the front. I don't know if I was speaking in tongues or not, but the Spirit is all over me. And long story short, I prophesy that basically I prophesied that our house is going to burn. So moving forward to the night that it happened, my mother said spiritually she had, because I also wanted to say that because of, you know, um, the relationship that my family had with God, we were born with gifts, gifts to see like certain things and, just stuff like that. So my mom said the day of the fire, she wasn't feeling good. She was, keep in mind, oh, let me start. Oh, sorry, I
It's
missed a
okay.
little bit. But my mom and my dad got a divorce. My mom moved in this shotgun house, basically cold, drafty house in Des Moines, Iowa. That's where I'm originally from. And in January, I mean, if anybody's ever been in the Midwest, it gets freezing, especially in Iowa. It's ice cold. So my mom turns on the burner for the stove, and she opens up um, the oven, and to keep the house warm, because she had the heat on, but the house was old, drafty. My mom and my dad separated, not on good terms. My dad swore that my mom would never get a dime, and so we suffered. And my mom basically moved in a house that she could afford on welfare. Anyway, there's myself. I was 3 years old. My oldest brother. Um, I don't have permission to say their names. So my oldest brother was 5, I was 3, and my youngest brother was 1. My mother, at the time, had a bladder infection, so she was on medication that made her sleepy, because of the pain and whatnot. So anyway, so she opened up. There was 2 curtains hanging off of the back. Now, as you walk into the house, there's like a porch. Uh, Off of the front room was the master bedroom. You go straight back, it's the dining room. Over to the right was my room. Over to the left was my brother's room. Off of the dining room in the middle was a bathroom, but off of the other side of the dining room was uh, the kitchen area, the small kitchen area, where the stove was right there by the door. So there was two curtains hanging there. And my oldest brother, who was 5, he was known to get up and basically he was hyper. He would get up in the middle of the night and just ramble the house. Well, what happened was um, he took a piece of paper and he put the piece of paper on top of the stove. Well, anyway, the paper burned. And back in 1976, they didn't have fire resistant carpet. So my brother, he was scared, that he was going to get in trouble. My mom sleep with my oldest brother, my youngest brother, who was 1, in the front of the house. I was in the back of the house. Now, keep in mind, my mom put on a gown that was fire resistant, but I've always been the type of person that I was at that age. I was always mature for my age, and I always stayed hot for some reason. So I got up and put on a swimsuit and went back to bed because I was, hot or whatever. So anyway, make a long story short, my 5-year-old brother ran into the closet, which was off of the dining room, did not tell my mom. The house the fire started from the back of the house. My mother at the time, we just moved into the house, and she says we wasn't even there a year. We didn't have a telephone. Our landlord lived next door, and there was another gentleman that lived on the other side. So by the time my mom, the smoke woke my mother up, and she grabs my youngest brother and runs to the landlord's house next door, like, oh my God, because she couldn't get to the back of the house where we were at. And she's like, my kids are, my please help me, call the ambulance, or call somebody, because my kids are, getting ready to die. My house is on fire. He stood there. He didn't open the door.
Oh,
So my youngest brother, who is 1 year old, who's spoiled, he basically, according to what my mother said, during that time, he basically was chasing after my mom, and my mom literally had to knock him out in the snow to get to the other neighbor's house. You know what I'm saying? So he wouldn't, so she was she was frantic.
mhm.
And I'm a mother, and I can only imagine. Well, anyway, so the next neighbor that she went to, that was on the left side of us, the landlord did on the right, the left side of us, uh, he put on his shoes and he jumped right in. But when he got to the house, there was so much smoke and stuff in the house, and the house was so consumed that he basically couldn't get in, and he burned his feet trying. So I don't, my mom said she dropped on her knees at that time, and she said she began to ask God, don't allow my kids to perish. And she said as soon as she got off her knees, there was the firefighters. Well, the firefighters went in because they have the equipment, and they found my brother passed out in the closet. I was passed out in my room, and the fire was so bad where I was at that the other firefighters was like, she's gone. You can't. And he was like, no. Uh, Basically, he said, no, I'm going to go back in. And he went back in and he found me. And so, anyway, they send me to a local hospital, which is Broadlands Hospital. Now, keep in mind, at that time, I was at that time they didn't have like the helicopters and the that type of stuff. This is back in 1976. So I go to the local hospital. They restart. They're trying to restart me because I'm passed out. And according to my medical records, I was dead for 13 minutes. Now, what I used to remember bits and pieces of it, like kind of like a visual form. Like I would fall asleep and I would have just like a piece here, a piece there, but I never had the whole story until I'll, finish with my story until I met God. Well, anyway, I remember them working on me. and they were trying to revive me, resuscitate me. And I remember me and another being, a spirit being, which I believe was my guardian angel, uh, was looking over my body, and as they were reviving me. And I remember just, they would start it and, stop, and keep in mind, I'm 3 years old, and I'm at that time with the 3-year-old mindset. So I'm like, not knowing what's going on. I'm scared, I'm crying. Now this is in the spirit. My spirit has left my body, and I'm in where they were trying to revive me. And so I remember my spirit guide. I never seen anyone's face or anything like that. I just knew that everybody was tall, and it was just real bright, and it was kind of like a movie that I was watching. And so as soon as I touched them, the scene changed. And I remember like going at this great big, like bright, bright light. And uh, I wasn't walking, we were like floating. And we were kind of like going upstairs, but we weren't walking up the stairs. We were like just floating. And I'm like holding on tight, and crying for my mommy. And we get all the way up, and I remember the gates. I remember basically the gate was open and another being came out, which I believe was Jesus, and they're talking back and forth, but their lips aren't moving. It's like they're talking like with their mind, kind of, but it was kind of like their mind, but like everybody knew what everybody was saying. And I remember them being so tall and me being so little, and these big gates. And it's kind of like I could see through people, you know what I'm saying? And there was other souls around, and that there was kind of like, I heard the choir, I heard the singing, I felt the peace come over me. I felt the comfort of the Lord, at that. And I remember he gave me a choice. He says, "Would you like to go with me, or would you like to go with your mommy?" And I said, and I start crying again. And I was like, "I want my mommy. I want my mommy." And so he touched me. But before he touched me, I do remember this. He says, "We will meet again." Oh, sorry. So I woke up back in the hospital room. By this time, my mom and my dad is in the hallway. My dad's not saved. My mother my whole family's there. It's just a chaotic scene. Everybody's upset. The emotions are driven. Keep in mind now, my brother is in that same hospital fighting for his life, my 5-year-old brother. So you can imagine, my parents at this time, I remember my mom, she said that she left the hospital and went and got a pastor, one of the pastors in the area. And she brought him to where they were, reviving me. They had me stable at this point. And he said I wasn't breathing on my own. By this time, they intubated me. They put a tube down my throat, and so the machine was doing the breathing for me, but I was still alive because my heart was beating. And anyway, uh, they said, "Well, no one can come in here," and my mom's like, "No, he's coming in here and he's going to lay hands on my daughter." And they said that Elder McNair, who was the pastor, he's passed on now, and I think his family would be okay with me saying this, laid hands on me, and I began to start breathing. I, I was alive. Okay. From that point, I remember I was stable. Um, they took me to Iowa City, which was kind of like a well-known research hospital in Iowa at that time that specialized in burns. They had burn units. So my family, I remember being in the ambulance with the crew. And I remember the tunnel, like the road there being dark because they had me in the ambulance and my family was following my mother, her sister, and her brother-in-law at the time were following my mother. Well, I mean, with my mother, the ambulance to Iowa City. But I had a vision of the road being very, very narrow and very, very dark. And it was just us two on the highway. But as you looked up on the highway, there was an angel, and the angel just like lit the way. You know what I mean? So I get to the burn unit. I end up staying in the burn unit. I was 3 years old. When I came home, I was around 8. So during that time, when I first got there to the burn, I didn't stay there that long. I'm continuing with the story, but when I first got uh, to the burn unit, I was in pain, and they used to put uh, babies, young children, in these long, like iron cribs, but they were real tall, so they couldn't crawl over it. But mine had, I was kind of like in a bubble because anyone knows that if you receive burns, because I received first, second, and third-degree burns, um, the side of my face, my hand, my arm, and no one could touch me, because they were treating me, and so I remember the pain. I remember crying for my mom at night. Now, keep in mind, my mom had two kids in the hospital, so she had to go from Iowa City, which was like almost 2 hours away, back to Des Moines to Broadlands to take care of my 5-year-old brother. Um, and so I was left, in the care of the hospital at that time. And so I remember being in so much pain and crying and being in this bubble. And I remember just like looking over, and the only thing that I could see, because I slept all day because they basically kept me sedated because of the pain. And then when they needed to treat me or bathe me or whatever, they would kind of let it die down to kind of see how I was responding to pain or whatever. But um, I basically remember just looking out and seeing the moon, and I used to just talk to the moon. And so I remember one night I was in so much pain and crying. And this nurse came in, and her name was Ivy. And Ivy had beautiful olive skin, perfect complexion. She was skinny, and her hair was coal black and wrapped up in like a hair bun. And she came in and she's like, Zanetta. And I'm like, oh. And she's like, is it okay? She said, you want me to read you a story? And I was like, why? She gave me my medicine. She read me a story, but she was reading me the Bible. And she's telling me biblical stories of course, in a child, appropriate enough for a child. And then she went in to touch me, you know. And every time Ivy touched me, my pain would go away. And anyway, so keep in mind, I'm in and out of sedation. Ivy is in my room literally every night. We built a bond to the point where I'm crying for her during the day. And so, anyway, make a long story short, when I came to, they said that I was really energetic. And I used to run through the burn unit and run into other people's room and tell them about God and lay hands on them and, do all of these things and stuff. And uh, I'm like, where's Ivy? Where's Ivy? No one knew who Ivy was. There was no Ivy.
Huh,
It was an angel.
huh.
Whew. And so, sorry, I feel the spirit. But and so I always remembered her, always remembered her. So anyway, they wouldn't allow me to go home because, they were educating my mom on how to, treat my condition. And so they sent me to a convalescent home, and I stayed there until I ended up going to school. So that's my first.
Now, did you say you stayed there till you were 8?
Between the hospital stays, between when I first got burned, and then they sent me from the burn unit. I was in the burn unit for almost 2 years. Then they sent
Wow.
me from there to a convalescent home where I stayed, and they treated me. And then I was able to go home. Yeah.
How was your brother?
My brother, he did get treated. The only my he just had a burn on the back of his leg. They, got him together, and he grew up prosperous. I was the only one that had scars.
Now, your baby brother, did he just have smoke inhalation or something?
Yes, he did. He did. They basically, after my mom got help, of course, they treated him first because he was outside, then my brother, and then me. Now, I would like to say this. I grow up, right? And I grow up, and so I wanted to be a trauma nurse. I went to school. I ended up getting my bachelor's degree, two bachelor's degree, and I don't have a lot of money, so I wasn't able to pursue that. I got all the way to the third semester and had to drop out. So I went to school for business. Well, anyway, the reason why I'm telling you this story is because while I was in college the first time, I started working in the intensive care unit in Des Moines at the hospital. But I was a secretary and I used to be a monitor tech, and kind of alert the nurses and stuff. So anyway, I go into this patient's room and we're talking, and this lady, she was in there, she was in there with it. She was an older white lady. Her husband was in intensive care, and we began to talk. I always had a rapport, people kind of drew to me. And so I'm in there talking with her, and she was like, "Oh, sweetheart, because if you see me, you'll see, you can see the makeup, but if you can kind of see the scar on my face and my hands and my arm." So people would always ask me, like, "What happened to you?" And I was like, "What didn't?" You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like a quirky sense of humor. But anyway, we began to talk, and I began to tell her the story, and she was like, "Well, when did this happen?" And I was like, "This happened in Des Moines, and this, 1976, January 9th." And she's like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "What is your name?" And I was like, "What is your name?" Well, come to find out, the lady's husband that was there was her second husband. The first husband that, if I remember, I said there was a firefighter that saved my life. It was her husband. He ended up,
Oh, that's
so I met,
funny.
isn't that crazy? I, so I met him. And I met her, but he ended up dying after the fire, and stuff. But so that's
Not
another story.
because of the fire, right? I mean,
Um,
did he die because of the fire or something
no,
else?
it's
Okay.
something else. But
Okay.
how ironic is that?
Yeah,
I don't believe
it
in coincidence,
is.
and I don't believe in,
Right.
I don't even believe in luck. I just think everything is ordained by God. You know what I mean? So going on with my life, I graduate, I go through high school. Um, I end up, now I'm going to my second story. So I ended up, after graduating high school, um, going to Denver, Colorado, and because my mom's side of the family lived there. And so I just wanted to get out of Des Moines, and I moved there in 1992. I graduated in 1991. So I went down there, and I'm staying with a cousin of mine, and she was super, super religious, and she had two kids. She had one child named Tyler. He was about 5, and another son named Kason. He was about 3, and we used to call him Biz. And so when I got down there, he just was drawn to me. He just, followed me around. He would, oh, and my nickname is Reese. So, "Oh, cousin Reese, you're so pretty." We get ready for church. And I'm still at the point in my life where I know of God, but I don't know God. You know what I'm saying? Like I know the God of my mother and my grandmother, but I knew that I'm a walking, living miracle, but I don't know God for myself. So they say all roads lead to Denver, right? So I ended up in Denver, Colorado. Well, when I was out there, I was staying with my cousin who had her 2 kids. She was a single mother, and she's an ex-drug dealer who basically got saved, sanctified, and was on fire for God. So I started going, she started requiring that I go to church with her. And of course, I was kicking and bucking. And then finally, I ended up getting saved, sanctified, and filled where God um, basically introduced himself to me. Now, keep in mind, I'm still having these visions. I'm still having, always been, ever since I was a little girl. Um, Let me start here. Ever since I was a little girl, I'm what you call a seer. I see people, like people that would come into my room and sit on the edge of my bed, spirits, before they die. And I would be scared to death. I run in my mom's room, run in my brother's room. And then, it just got to the point where I thought I was crazy. You know what I'm saying? I did not know what my gift was. So fast forward back to Denver. This is when um, my gift really started manifesting. Like the Lord was really using me to, I would get up every morning because I work, for some reason, I always worked at a hospital. And I had to be at work at like 6:30 in the morning. And so I would go stop by my church and go to 5 o'clock morning prayer. And the Lord just started using me. Like I started prophesying and saying stuff to people and filling people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like I was at work one day and the Spirit of the Lord, I'm running around singing, I'm saved, sanctified, or whatever. And um, I get to the nurse's station. And when I get to the nurse's station, I start feeling like I wanted to die. And I'm like a suicidal spirit, you know what I mean? So anyway, uh, one of my coworkers who was kind of like this gothic girl. Now keep in mind, we're both young. And she comes out and all of a sudden I just start feeling her. And come to find out, I asked her, I said, do you know God? I don't mean to, because I'm not the type that, I'm not gonna shove, God down anyone's throat. And she just busted out crying. Do you know she was in that bathroom getting ready to commit suicide? And the Lord allowed her to see me. And yeah, and we ended up crying and praising God. And so I say all that to say this, that my gifts start getting stronger. And so uh anyway, after that, I'm just telling you little tidbits of how God was, just he never left my life, but how he just started introducing himself to me when I
Now, was
moved.
you working in the hospital as a nurse? Was you working in business?
No, I did not. Like I said, for some reason, I always worked in the hospital. I would either be a monitor tech, I
Okay.
did CNA. During nursing school, I had to do, like my clinicals. I was always around, you know what I'm saying, a
Okay.
hospital setting. So, no, I was not. I never got a chance to complete that actually. So, but, hey, it is what it
Yeah,
is.
it's fine.
But anyway, so one day I braid hair. I That's another thing that I used to do for money. And my cousins used to pay me to braid their hair. So my cousin Bunny, who with the two kids, I moved out at this time and got my own apartment. And so I'm over, she calls me over, I drive over, and she's like, uh, I'm braiding my cousin's hair, and all of a sudden one of her nieces calls her and says, Aunt Bunny, I need you to get down here and pick me and my baby up, because, they, something's going on. I just need to come out there. So she was like, well, my nickname's Reese. Reese, will you take me down there? Because she really didn't have gas. So I drive. Now, the reason why I'm telling you the setting of the car, because this is where my second incident happened. So I get in the car and I'm driving. My cousin Bunny's on the passenger side, and back of me is Tyler. Keep in mind, he has the flu. He's sick, but we couldn't leave him by himself. And in the middle is Kason. He's asleep. No, he's not asleep then yet. And then on the other side of him is her other niece whose hair I was braiding, Michaela. And so Bisque, we called him Bisque, would not sit still in the seat. Well, a month or two prior to this incident, we lost an uncle. He lost an uncle, which was my cousin, and the police were chasing him, and he went to go jump on the train, and his shirt got caught, and it ended up, severing his body into two. So the reason why I say that is because the baby kept saying, uh, Cousin Reese, Mommy, I see Uncle Ideal in the tree, right? And Uncle Ideal was the one that just died. And I'm like, oh. Kason, just, well, praise God, and not thinking of it. But he's like, literally, he's telling me to come here. So anyway, we pull up. Um, we're over by Denver General. We pull up, and they're kind of like in a kind of like a duplex townhome where the driveway is in front of the house, but the street is in back of, you know what I'm saying? There, it was like a corner lot. And so my cousin, she's in there helping, Lachey get her and her baby together. And I'm in the car playing church music. I'm praising God. The kids are asleep. I had to stay. And, I was talking to my cousin Michaela. That all of a sudden I hear a boom, 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 boom. My back window shattered. Somebody pulls up in the back of my car. Now keep in mind, I drove a Cadillac, and it was a very nice Cadillac. It was like a Sedan DeVille type Cadillac, and um, it would look like a drug dealer's car. That's how nice my car was. Anyway, they were shooting up my car. The back window bust out. Boom. Then they turned the corner. They turn the corner and start shooting up the side. One guy is over the hood. The driver is shooting. One guy's over the hood, and then the passenger is over the hood shooting. These are teenagers. I'm sitting up, and all of a sudden, I go in shock, like complete shock. I could not move. Only thing I heard, it was like, how you see on the movies, it's like everything's slow motion, but the sounds are so graphic, like boom, boom. And I'm hearing the church music in the background. And um, they turn the corner and then they leave. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. I run out of the car. But before, when they shot my side up, that my front window busted. And keep in mind, I never moved, never moved. But I felt an angel wrap its arms around me. When I tell you that angel was big, it wrapped its arms around me. And oh my God, I just, everything was going on around me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, keep in mind, I'm not a mother at this point. So I'm not thinking about the kids. I'm in shock. I didn't know what to do. Well, anyway, make a long story short, I run into the house. Bunny, bunny. I try to get in the door. They're already on the ground because of the shots. Let's go, let's go. My car shot up, blood everywhere. We got ready to move Bisque, which is Kason, and he has a hole in his head.
Hmm.
He's shot in the head.
Hmm.
Tyler's not touched. I wasn't touched. Michaela wasn't touched. So I'm so frantic at this point. Denver General's literally around the corner. We are running like, I'm driving the car and I'm like, oh my God, we got to get him to the hospital because he's gasping for breath, you know. And I'm like, I just stopped the car and I run to this person's porch and I'm like, please help us, help us, help us. My car got shot. And so they call the ambulance. And then my cousin, she's on the ground holding her 3-year-old baby. And he's taking his last breath. He dies in the arms.
Oh.
You're talking about a whole mind trip, you know. And so at that point, I'm saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. I get angry. What kind of God would allow that to happen? You know what I mean? The police are everywhere. It's just chaotic. My car's full of blood. I'm trying to see about my cousin, and she lets out this God-wrenching motherly scream that I know now that I didn't know then because her baby just, you know what I mean? So at that point, I backslid.
What?
I, I backslid. I From that point, I said I could never serve a God that, you understand? So that was my second near life, near death experience that I wanted to share. I ended up actually reconciling with God and allowing God to use me. Um, you know, like I said, with my gift, I'm a seer, so I can look at a picture. I can be in your presence. I can hear a voice, certain songs that get in my spirit. I dream them, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So at the age of 40, I basically just accepted who I was with God, and I don't know where it's supposed to take me, but I'm start this is why I'm here because I've been kind of doing research and just looking up certain things, and this is how I came across your channel and listening to other people's stories, and I'm like, you know what? Um to him much is given, as much is required, and I can't keep sitting on the fact that I'm a miracle, that God is still, and I didn't come here to preach, but I'm just saying that he's still in the miracle working business. I am a miracle, and not just once, but twice. He saved me from that. So that's why I think that, I wanted to share my story with your channel.
Yeah, I've been through so much.
Yeah,
But yeah, at the same time, you've been so blessed to be able to see the angels and for the baby to have you to be able to hear that he saw his family member in the tree, I think you said that I don't know if that was able to comfort the mom at all. I mean, who can comfort a mother after that, but to know who was there for him. Like
right.
Ivy was your angel, and must have been that was his angel that she
Mm,
was able to know. But gosh, oh, it's
yeah,
a lot.
it is a lot.
So when
But
you
I'm
backslid, you were angry with God, like angry at life. I mean, what was that like?
just, I'm just like, come on. I mean, how much can a person take? I have other things that I could go into, where I was 13 years old and my stepfather died in my arms after being stabbed. Just, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I've been through so much, but he, God thought that I could handle it because I'm still here. I'm still telling my story. And now I'm understanding that it's never about you. It's never about me. It's all for his glory. You understand? We are vessels. And, you know, um, when you're up in heaven or whatever, you know, um, we don't say what life to choose, because everybody would probably, so I'm grateful. I say all that to say that I'm grateful that, I went on, I'm went on and, I got married. I had two kids. The enemy always told me because of my scars, I would never be in a loving relationship. My husband passed away. Now I'm a widower. I'm working on my graduate degree. I'm in my right mind. I have the activities of my limbs, and there's always, when you think your story's bad, what one thing I've learned, being around people, uh, there's always somebody in a worse state than you are. So it's best to just be grateful. I learned not to question God. Yeah, I went through that. Yeah, I got angry at God. I didn't understand what type of God. But then when I began to get older and mature, to see that, you know, why not you? You know, he chose me for that, to live this life and to be in a testimony, a testament to people that, he's still in the miracle working business. You
What'd your
know,
husband die of?
he died. Actually, my husband passed away in a car wreck. Yeah. And I have a 13-year-old son and I have a 16-year-old daughter. And he died in 2017. But I just keep pressing. You know what I mean?
So many
you know,
crosses to bear.
it is, you know, guess what? I'm working my way in. No cross, no crown. I'm not perfect, you know. I have flaws, but I'm human. But God, I have a relationship with God, you
What's
know.
your graduate degree going to be in?
actually counseling.
Awesome.
Yeah, clinical mental health counseling. So I got out of I live in Missouri now, which is a state over because I have elderly parents that I, go back and forth to help out, and um I just,
You're gonna help so many people.
I think so. And it's weird because it's like I got an old spirit and people just draw to me, all walks of life. I could be out on the bus stop waiting on, I could be anywhere. And people just navigate and draw to me. And then God uses me to be able to, help that person. So I don't think that I would be where I'm at spiritually if I didn't go through the things that I went through. And then, God let me know that even death can't hold you unless it's your time, you know, unless God has the final say so. So
Now,
I,
when you were at the church when you were 3 and um, you had that experience where you said there's going to be a fire, was the fire that night or soon afterwards or?
no, that was on a Sunday. And then I forgot to look up the date because I like to have my details in order. But it was January 9th, 1976. So that prior Sunday to the fire. I don't
Okay,
remember exactly what
okay.
day. I have to look at the article that I sent you. But yeah, it happened less than
Have you had any more premonitions throughout your life like that? Or is
I
that just
have
a one-time thing?
no, I have them all the time. I
Okay.
yeah, it's this is I was showing you the progression of the gift that I have. And like I said, in my family, um, my auntie, my mother, God deals with us in visions and dreams. And, if something's going to happen, we'll call one another, hey, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So with me, like I said, I can look at a person's picture and the Lord will open their life up.
Okay.
I can feel intensely, like ever since my near death experience when I was 3. I see people, before they pass. I I don't know. It's just weird. It's hard to explain. It's like I can see things before they happen. The Lord will use me to say certain things to people, um, warnings, and words of encouragement, um, just whatever, you know. But yeah, I'm what you call. I used to I used to think that I know I have a gift of prophecy, but I began to read a book, and when I start, it's called The Seer, and everything that man in that book wrote, I was. So how he began to, how people will, equate a seer to a prophet or the gift of prophecy. See, a seer is well, what I can say being a seer is I see in the spiritual realm like you see in the natural. I could be standing next and see people like your ancestors. I can see angels around you. I can see orbs, lights, like you. You have
Like
a
me?
yes, like
Like
you
me,
have
like now? Like what do you see?
yes. I seen when I first chimed in. There's like an orb, an aura around you. Yes. And some people, they get scared, like I was. I thought I was a freak. I thought there was something wrong with me. I didn't understand. And so I had to learn because my gift is not like your gift. Your gift is not like my gift. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I really had to dig in and ask God, how do you, and I'm still asking him, where does he desire this to go? What am I supposed to do? So this is why I'm starting this platform because I've allowed the enemy to silence me for so long, not telling about my story, my testimony. I call it a testimony, and not allowing running from my gift. and allowing the world to dictate to me who I should be. And I had to come out of that. I had to um, see God's face. I had to walk away from this is a lonely walk. This isn't something that, you carry a lot of people with. There's going to be people that betray you, misunderstand you. I have been hurt by more people that I know and loved and never seen it coming. But it's a lonely walk. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's costly, but I'm determined, no matter what state that I'm in, I'm sorry, I'm going to make it to heaven and I'm going to do exactly what it is that God has for me because I've been through too much hell here on earth to die and go to hell. I refuse.
Are you still in Colorado?
No, I'm in Missouri. I'm in Kansas City,
Okay.
Missouri.
Okay. Have you thought about writing a book?
It's so weird that you said that. Listen, I asked the guy probably about 2 weeks ago because I wanted to write a book. Well, he's like, well, wait till you get done with your graduate degree. Why do I have to wait till but I believe that there is a book or two in me. And I even have the title and everything. And I just don't have, like I said, I've been delayed by the enemy per se. You know what I mean? I've been prepared, but I really haven't had the resources. And like I said, this is my first time ever like publicly outside of church telling my story, you know.
Well, thank you for
Yeah,
contacting me
yeah,
and coming on.
yeah. So, and thank you for having me. I hope that, you know, this can help someone out there, and it can get out, because people go through, and I just want to say this and I'll let you go, but people go through these, it took me 47 years to tell my story. I am 50, getting ready to be 51 years old. I got burned when I was 3.5. It shouldn't have took that long to tell the goodness of God.
I
But
was the same way. I was in my 50s before I really started talking about anything.
yeah. And isn't it crazy do you know how many souls we have held up? But I guess it's all about timing. And I would
Yes.
love to tell my story more than that. Encourage people. This is why I'm going into the profession that I'm going into. And, I want to be a servant. I'm not looking for fame or fortune. I want to be a servant.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Well, best of luck to you.
Yeah.
I'll send you my memoir. Maybe there's something in there where will help you formalize your thoughts or inspire you somehow.
Yes, please do. Please
Okay.
do.
I sent
Yes.
you an email.
Thank you. God
Uh-huh.
bless you all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.